Now, a week and a half into the IPL 2022, let's figure out what's trending, what sort of observations can we make, and what kind of impressions can we make about the teams now that we've seen them play a couple of games, and what can we also expect going forward in this year's IPL. Should make for a fascinating conversation with Ravi Shastri. One trend is, of course, how Ravi's returned from coaching to analysis and commentary. Lynn as well, trending to be an IPL pundit for the first time, and Gaurav Sundararaman is here too, our senior data analyst. We've seen this season is the boom or bust approach, right? The high opportunity cost of going hard, even if you lose a couple of wickets. Liam Livingstone's shown the way. Can every team afford that? Ravi, would you like to see more teams try it, even though it sounds high risk?
You got to have the ability to do it, and Liam has it. Liam, that's his game. It's much like Chris in his prime. When you're hot and you're seeing the ball and you have that confidence, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, then you go for it. And he's targeting the right bowlers. It's not that, he's going after everyone with the same mindset. He knows what he's doing. He knows which bowlers he can, get under the skin of, and he's going after them. I think he's a top cricketer. And, this IPL, he should really shine here.
You think, though, after that one game, teams will prepare better for someone like Liam Livingstone?
Oh, if they don't, it could cost you a game. Guaranteed.
But would you still recommend that sort of approach, even if Livingstone has, say, a couple of failures now? Let's say Punjab lose a couple. Would you think that approach eventually will get you more returns?
If he's confident, if that's his game, I'd rather have him do that than try something different and where it doesn't work. And it's working for him. So let it first not work for him before we even start thinking in that direction. Some of the biggest problems in sport is when you overthink.
Sure.
And you think, what if? Now, as a coach, I say, to hell with that what if. I don't want to know what if. I want to think what if is in the other way. It's happening now, so think of that and focus on that.
Yeah, Punjab is one team, Chris. The other is Rajasthan. Of course, changed the approach in that game against Bangalore. They saw the surface wasn't as helpful. But do you see more teams adopting this, or is it simply that Livingstone is one of a kind, so Punjab can afford to do it? They've set up like that. Other teams, could there be a case of picking one or two players and saying, let's try this out? We lose a couple of wickets, doesn't matter. Instead of finding a guy to rebuild the innings, let someone go in and try and smash a 30-ball 60.
Yeah, look, I'm going boom every day of the week. But as Ravi touched on, you've got to have that artillery in the change room. First and foremost, you never flirt with form. So Liam Livingstone is in the form of his life. So don't flirt with that. Keep sticking to plan A. Keep playing that, taking the aggressive option. Look, it mightn't work every day of the week, but as I said, a couple of days ago, he only has to win a couple of games off his own bat and he's done his job. Hopefully he can win more than normal, but you never flirt with that form. In some cases, some teams don't have that artillery, and that's okay. You can build up, and then you have your backhand power hitters like your Andre Russells, your Kyron Pollards to finish the job. Everyone's got a role in the team, but everyone has to try and nail their role. We've seen early in the tournament a lot of batting teams have failed, and they've been carried by one or two players. Hopefully, when they get that opportunity, they ride the wave of their teammates' success, and when they get an opportunity, they've got to make the most of it. If you don't make the most of it, they'll go through the season without getting a 50 or match-winning knock, and then they'll get interchanged out, and then they're putting pressure on the next fella coming in. So, keep taking the aggressive option no matter what you do.
GS, do the rest of the teams have the option of playing this way? They don't have Livingstone, but can they ask someone else to do that sort of job?
I think what we saw from Chennai last season is if you have a deep batting lineup, you can still kind of do something like that. They did go hard all the time, and it worked. Again, the pitches, I think they played 5 games in Wankhede, and then they came to Dubai, and they kind of did the same thing. So if the pitches are fresh and flat, and you can kind of do that. A lot of teams are having pretty deep batting lineups nowadays. Even Delhi and 5 down, they were able to kind of continue to accelerate, and that helped them win a game against Mumbai. We saw that with Bangalore as well. So I guess if you have a deep batting lineup, you can. That's why Rajasthan is very surprising. They actually don't have such a deep batting lineup, and they're still managing to do it, which could backfire at some point in the tournament. But the other point I wanted to ask Ravi is, among the Indian batters, who does he think could do something like what Liam Livingstone does, especially in the top 4? Do you see any Indian batter who plays for India or among the domestic guys who can kind of do that for India in the future?
Ravi?
Can you just...
Yeah. Could you find an Indian batter who could do Liam Livingston's role? That sort of guy who will come in and press, play that sort of tempo. Is there someone you can think of who can do
The
that role?
only guy I can think of really at the moment of time is Surya Kumar Yadav if he's fit. To an extent, Rishabh Pant. Depending on how many batsmen around him are fit. See, with Liam, the advantage is they've got some heavy hitters. So he can go. So you have to look at sides that have that. I think.
What about Hardik Pandya who's given himself number 4? Do you think he's playing the number right now? Could he play the Livingston sort of
He
game?
can easily play the Livingston role, but provided he has got Pollard, he's got Surya Kumar Yadav, he's got Rohit Sharma in his
Around his team.
around his team. But at the moment, as a captain, I think he's looking to be very responsible and make sure that he plays to the
So
situation.
in this team you wouldn't want him to play
Not at all.
that way.
No,
right?
I'm quite happy with the way he's playing.
Chris, any thoughts on that? I mean, there are some teams who also have shorter batting lineups. I wonder if Mumbai could throw in Daniel Sams up there or Tim David. They're not what Liam Livingston offers, but it's trying to do that sort of role.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, having been in that situation before, you got to probably give more credit to the guys at the other end. Yes, Livingston's in the form of his life, but the guy at the other end has to get off strike every ball as well. The moment he gets bogged down, he stops momentum for Livy at the other end. And I think that's really important in the role of what he's trying to do. But yep, you can certainly throw up Tim David, Daniel Sams, these guys, but I think they still need to nail their first role, the initial role first, to earn the right to get up the list. But in saying that, if you are out of form, what's the best way to go about it is go on the offense, get them up there, give them that license, and you might just get that, fluent momentum and kickstart their campaign.
Now, GS, we've seen a lot happen in power plays in these first few games. Lots of wickets, lots of justice to the conventional swing bowlers. What have you got for us?
Yeah, I think the power play has been pretty phenomenal for the fast bowlers. We saw the likes of Umesh Yadav, Prasidh Krishna, Mohammad Shami all doing extremely well. So, and I think the length at which you bowl in the power play has also been very, very important for the bowlers. The hard, the good length, slightly short, back of a length have been very, very successful. Whereas the full length balls have gone at almost 10, 11 runs and over. So, bowlers need to have identified those lengths pretty quickly, especially at Wankhede and in Pune. And the spinners, spinners have just not come into the picture. Usually you see the Ashwins and the Washington Sundars and the Sunil Narayans bowling in the power play quite a lot and getting those wickets. But barring Sundar a couple of wickets the other day, I don't think many spinners have done well. They average quite a lot in the power play. And I don't know if this is going to continue to the season. Lynn and Ravi would be in much better place to tell us whether this would be the flavor throughout the season.
Okay, let's take it from there. Chris, lots of wickets to the outswingers, to the swinging ball. How do batters respond?
Yeah, look, I think it's just the different wickets that we've seen so far in the IPL. I mean, compared to the last two seasons where they've been, in Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and the one game I played was in Chennai. The pace and bounce wasn't there. So what we're seeing is that pace and bounce, and the ball's actually swinging and seaming. So from a batter's point of view, you just got to try and identify that early. We saw Josh Butler do that, to a tee the other night, but the other guys just seem to be struggling. And you know what, it might be the case of just playing traditional cricket shots in the power play and, actually earning the right to hit those boundaries.
Do you sense, Ravi, that lots of wickets to the swing bowlers early on, Ravi? Now, has that caught batters by surprise if they're not come prepared for this?
I wouldn't say not come prepared, but it's definitely taken them by surprise because if you look at IPL cricket, it's always been spread out. Even if it's in Dubai, it's over 3 venues where the tracks are totally different. As opposed to here, Wankhede, CCI, pretty similar. Both grounds very close to the sea. Humidity levels high in Mumbai. The ball will swing, and normally at the Wankhede track, because of the watering that's done, it doesn't really dry out, as much as you would think it would. So there is a little bit of moisture in that surface, and if the fast bowlers get it right, they will exploit it. And it's not just this year. You look down 10 years. In Mumbai, there will be a bit of carry and bounce, for the fast bowlers. So for the sides that are all playing at the same venue, all the batsmen, they've got to start to adapt. If you think you're going to come and get 70 of the first 6 or 60 of the first 6 in every game, you might just want to revisit that thought, because you could be 3 down, 4 down. So I think you can see already batsmen making the adjustment. Like Chris said, proper cricketing shots, give that time to the bowler and the conditions. And then if you have wickets in hand, you can really make up.
Is it hard for even the conventional batters to almost reconfigure their game? Ruturaj Gaikwad, Mayank Agarwal, guys who you think can play the moving ball, also seem to have a problem. What would you be telling them?
Well, it'll be just wait, just wait, because what they're trying to do is they are conventional players, but they want to up the ante much quicker than they normally do. So even they've got to give themselves the time which they normally would do if this was another format of the game.
Chris, the kind of batters like yourself, right, the ones that are not supposed to be taking time, does this require a change in just the word from the dugout, or how do they approach it? Can a batter like you actually take their time and not feel the pressure?
Yeah, look, I think you've got to be proactive, from your team point of view. Would you rather be none for 40 after the power play, or potentially 3 for 60? I know I'd rather be none for 40 and give yourself the opportunity to score heavily in the back end when the ball's not swinging, coming nicely onto the bat. But look, as I said, it might just be being proactive, getting across your stumps, using more of your crease, laterally, and getting out at the wicket. Maybe take the stumps out of the equation and bat a little bit further out of your wicket. Give the ball less time to swing. So again, just being proactive and having that mindset. But for me, it's all about keeping wickets in hand. As I said, I'd rather be none for 40 than 3 for 60.
At what point, Ravi, do we see more spin in the power play? Will that happen as the tournament progresses, or do you not expect these pitches to change much in character?
No, you will if there's hold in the surface. At most surfaces we've seen it's been a little bit of two-pace stuff. Where once that happens, there's no harm in trying a spinner, even if it is for an over, because if there's any grip there, you can see if the spinner can exploit it. But it's the waiting game. See, because you see, if you're batting first, suddenly once the moisture dries out towards the end, you start getting the dew. Runs come quickly, like you found with Butler in the last 3-4 overs. But that makes it easier for the other side. So it's a cat and mouse game. You just got to revisit your plans, your strategies, and I would say don't lose too many wickets in power play.
Would you be a fan of changing the openers at this point for guys who are more equipped to handle this sort of bowling, or the balance is good? One guy who will go hard, the other guy can wait. Is it time for teams to perhaps at least consider taking 2 guys who would just bat normally?
I think 1-1 is okay. What you said, with one guy taking the chance, one guy being the aggressor. It depends who's that aggressor. When you have 2 players out there, one might just be in better nick than the other. In which case, he can decide to go after the bowling.
Chris, just very quickly from you, you see a ball that's moving nicely outside off stump. What are you going to do as a batter to just throw the bowler off?
Well, I think if the ball is swinging away, I might look to give myself a little bit of room to free the arms. But you got to give credit where credit's due. The bowlers have bowled such a tight line throughout the IPL so far. Batters have had to move around, to free themselves up to get a bad ball. We haven't seen too many spells, with that new ball that have had too many freebies, unless they get slightly too greedy and get a little bit straight. But I'd just be moving around the crease, trying to change up the bowler's game plan, because for me, their game plan is very, very simple at the moment. They don't have to do anything. They hit the nice hard length. Even the bouncer we've seen have success, and get big and splice the batters. So for me, it's a very simple game with the ball in hand. As a batter, we're going to try and combat that. And everyone's different as well, mind you.
Yeah, absolutely. GS, anything more on that? Otherwise, we could go to our next chat talking point, which is, of course, spin, and how the wrist spinners and finger spinners have done so far in the early days of the IPL.
Yeah, I think just one point I wanted to add, that the right-left combination could be very crucial in such situations. A team like Chennai, for example, have 2 right-handers, which is not very ideal. I would think it makes the bowlers feel a bit comfortable in the line and let them bowl. And coming to spinners, I think we have this discussion every year, like how do the spinners do, how do finger spinners do. So far, the spinners seem to be dominating, and that seems to be the way in this game for quite some time. But What I would like to know from the experts is that the spinners are going at like 6 runs and over, 6.5 runs and over, whereas the finger spinners are going at 8 and averaging close to 60. So that's not a very good reading. And but does it make sense to kind of have the spinner and the finger spinner bowl together, bowl alongside each other? I think with the finger spinner always trying to play a controlling role, teams might look after going after the wrist spinner, and maybe that could get a lot of wickets. Ashwin Chahal seems to be like a perfect combination there. Are teams now slowly moving towards that kind of a balance in their lineup rather than two wrist spinners or two mystery spinners?
Ravi?
See, I think the spinners will always have a chance. See, because with the fast bowlers bowling well early on and the ball swinging and not making it easy in power play. So when the spinners come on, the batsman's eyes light up. You know, they want to take a chance against him. So as a spinner, you would know that. So it also tells you that you might go for runs, but there's a great chance of you picking up wickets. So if you come up with a good game plan, you know, keep the ball in the right areas, vary your length, you know, it can help you a lot.
Chris? Kolkata are one of the teams that play two spinners. Rajasthan the other. They've got Ashwin Chahal. Spinners have been successful, though we're seeing the numbers for finger spin. Still early days. But is two spinners the way to go? It seems like spinners are arresting momentum or changing games more than you'd say seamers.
Yeah, I think I'll just add on to what Ravi touched on there. I think, you know, looking at Calcutta and Rajasthan, guys that have the ability to spin the ball both ways, as a batter, you've got to make a decision. I know it's not big spin at the moment, but it will throughout the tournament. But when you can spin it both ways, you beat both sides of the bat. Whereas when you've just got a left arm orthodox or right arm off spinner, you can just hit through the line of the ball. And I don't believe you have to make a bigger decision as such. So that's why we've seen, you know, such a variance in the strike rate and the averages. But again, that dew factor plays a big part. Regardless which way you're spinning the ball, if you can't grip it, then you've got no hope of trying to spin it. So it all depends on, obviously the toss is very crucial, but as Ravi said, you've got to be bowling at the stumps and give yourself the best opportunity if the ball's not spinning. And look, it might just be deception in the air. It might be off the pitch. It might just be subtle little changes, even though the ball's not spinning just yet. But yeah, again, that's why we're seeing, you know, the guys that spin it both ways, you know, control more so than the guys that spin it one way.
Not a lot of finger spinners walk into 11s, Ravi. Ashwin's one of them. 1 wicket in 3 games, but a key wicket, Tilak Verma, which turned the course of the game. Then the game against Bangalore, where we were critical of that over, which turned the game around. If you're a finger spinner, what sort of advice would you be looking for to be successful in this IPL where the wrist spinners seem to be dominating?
Because there's not much there for you.
Yes.
Plus, you might get a wet ball, so the chances of you spinning the ball and getting a batsman out is not that much, which means you've got to, vary your flight, and you've got to be able to bowl a foolish length, because the batsman will be looking to get under you, to either smack you, sweep you, or get under you to hit you straight down the ground. So every now and then, a foolish length is good because it makes the batsman think twice before sweeping. He cannot get under the ball. At the most, he'll get a single. So you've got to be smart with your lengths here when the ball is not turning. If you try too much, when you're not getting that much offer from the service, you can go for plenty. Sometimes as a spinner, you think, oh, it's not turning. Let me try this. This is where you want to have not too many plans up your sleeve. Just a couple of simple ones and stick to it.
Chris, Narayan seems to be out bowling Varun. A couple of seasons back was the other way around. What's working for Narayan, and what sort of advice would you give to someone like Varun?
Look, I think obviously they're very similar bowlers, but for me, it's all about the game awareness. Sonny's bowled, played in so many more matches than Varun. So for me, that's all. It just comes down to match awareness and knowing what a batter's going to do, and you only learn that through experience. And for me, it's a bit like because the ball's not spinning, it's a bit like a game of cat and mouse. Who's going to be ahead of the game? Who's going to take the trick? And that's basically all it comes down to. The ability are exactly the same. It's just all up here in your mindset and who's going to win that battle.
GS, are we seeing this season the matchup put aside for a little while, or more conveniently than others, where the matchups aren't as important because they're seeing the ball swing, captains are going more towards the seamers, so we're not seeing as many spinners in the power play? Would you think that's going to change? Do you think matchups going to be less important this IPL?
I don't think so. Actually, we did see a lot of matchups happening. We saw Sundar coming in for the two left-handers, and we saw in the middle overs we do see constantly spinners bowl to a particular batter. We saw how Punjab used spinners against Dhoni because he was not taking risks against spinners. So I think yes, in the power play, not yet as much as. In the middle overs and death, but I'm sure it will change as the pitches get a bit slower. You would start seeing the likes of Ashwin and Narain coming in. Like we do have a Narain versus Rohit matchup coming up very soon. So who knows? That could be one of the first matchups to be used up front. So I think it still plays a big role. That's how captains operate.
Let's talk about another pattern that we always look to observe in the early parts of the IPL. IPLs are always significantly important when it comes to selection for the national team, and Ravi Shastri has put his players that he's going to keep an eye on. Does it play on their minds though, on the way they play? Have you noticed anything in regards to the likes of the Sanju Samson, Shreyas Iyers? Do they believe that this is an important IPL to audition for the World Cup, and does it somewhat affect how they play in the IPL?
I think they are fine, but it surely looks to me with Ruturaj Gaikwad, because he's on the periphery. He's knocking at that door. So he's fully aware a good IPL season will make him a front runner. So now, is he feeling the pressure a little more than normal? That's the question to be asked. So that's one player I look at who might be thinking in that fashion. The others, I think, from what you see, they're pretty much secure. I can't see anyone else really in that lot who should feel insecure.
Is someone who's perhaps further away from that feels less pressure suddenly after one Dinesh Karthik innings, we're throwing his name into the ring as well, as someone who he himself has said he's very keen to make another World Cup appearance? Would it be easier for someone like him?
with the amount of cricket being played and with the injuries that can take place, if you have a good IPL season, which I think he's right in thinking in that fashion, if he started off really hot, if he has a crackerjack of a season, surely he'll be in that, in the mix, because he's got the experience. He's got all the shots. There's no Dhoni in the side now, so you're looking at a finisher as well. But you got to also see how many keepers do you want. Who are the keepers you're going to take? There's Ishan Kishan there. There's Rishabh Pant there. Dinesh Karthik. Now, if there's an injury there, suppose there's an injury to say Pant or Kishan, then he comes in quite automatically.
Why not?
Actually, why not?
Yeah, Chris, ever had that sort of feeling in a dugout? Couple of Indian players that feeling the pressure of having a big IPL season, which in turn affects how they play for the franchise?
I think deep down you definitely do have that feeling, but I would be very disappointed if that was their first thought. The guys that always have that team first mentality, I find always, one, perform better, but then two, also find themselves in their national colours. So, from a batter, whether it's Sky, Sanju, DK, they've got all the talent in the world. So I would be very disappointed if they thought about the Indian selection first. So this is why I'm a big fan of DK at the moment. He's doing what the team needs, and he's not scared of getting out. That fear of failure has gone out the window. He's happy to just play the team game, and it's paying dividends for him right now.
GS 10-team IPL and a result of the big auction. Who seems to be struggling? The obvious one seems to be Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, I think Mumbai have lost quite a lot of their talent, and their bowling has come down drastically from last season, right? Even Delhi, for that matter, they had a very, very strong bowling lineup. It was built on that bowling lineup, and this year it's a slightly step down from last season, and that's what happens. And teams have to be prepared for that, and they should have planned in the auction for that. Maybe they didn't get the players. So Mumbai and Delhi. Yes, Chennai, obviously, it's kind of the same team, but they didn't have a backup for Deepak Chahar, I think, which they didn't plan for. But that's why maybe the new teams are doing well. They don't have any kind of set template. They're playing new kind of cricket. All of them are coming together for the first time. The likes of Gujarat, Lucknow, and even Punjab Kings, for that matter. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise, and they're doing well. But yeah, Mumbai and Delhi, I feel their bowling attack has been a pretty big letdown from the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying half the battle is the auction, Ravi. And if you have a good auction, you'll have a good season. Chennai have an auction, which shows a team similar to last year, the exception of Deepak Chahar. Mumbai Indians still have key players, but their bowling looks weak. Gujarat Titans, we thought was a weak team, and suddenly they've won a couple of games. Can you understand and make sense of how this first week
No,
has
no, I
gone?
agree with GS there. There are two teams that probably have weakened, I would say, in the bowling department would be Mumbai and Delhi. And I wouldn't say Gujarat aren't a strong side. They've got
Okay.
enough good players there. But if you look at what Mumbai were and what Delhi were, that's why you're coming up with the comparison. When you have Nokia, Rabada in that side, it's a different attack. And Mumbai Indians with Krunal and Hardik in the side,
Sure.
and you have Bolt in the side, then it makes a big difference. Bumrah is twice the bowler then. Then it's a double-edged sword that you have with Bumrah and Bolt. So that side now is feeling the heat because it lacks that firepower to, push the way they used to push over the last 4-5 seasons. And Delhi are feeling it to an extent now. So, those would be the two teams, I think, who, and Chennai to an extent, whether you like it or not, Chennai, had too much of experience, right? Too much of experience. But 12 months, 8 months down the line, you need some youth. You need some exuberance of youth there to fire them along. What kept that experience going last year was, the flair of Ruturaj Gaikwad at the top, who had a brilliant season, was very consistent, and took a lot of pressure off some of the senior players.
To wrap this up, I'd love to ask each of you two questions. One, take a moment, the best bowling attack that we've seen in the IPL so far. And two, what's been the biggest surprise? Positive, negative? Would it be the way the Titans have started? Would it be how CSK have been disappointing? So take a moment perhaps to think that through. Let's start with what's been the best bowling attack. We've of course got Rajasthan with their quality spinners and whatnot. We've got Gujarat Titans, Rashid Khan, Lockie Ferguson, Mohammad Shami. They seem to be coming together. Let's go around the room. GS?
I think for me, it's Rajasthan. I think they have an all-round attack. All the roles seem to be covered, and there's top international quality with a lot of experience. We saw that with Ashwin against Mumbai. We saw that Chahal yesterday. So I think that's been pretty top-notch, according to me. You have Trent Bolt who comes in early and who can extract the swing, and you have a fifth bowler in Navdeep Saini, who's by the end of the day, he's a very, very good fast bowler, Indian international. And on his day, he can nail those yorkers and bowl those bouncers very well. So overall, it's a very, very good five-man attack.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're doing this the day after they've lost a game and the bowlers were criticized. But you look at the fifth bowling option of a lot of teams and you put Navdeep Saini in comparison. So that's the point we're making. It's an international, full international who's your fifth bowling option. Whether that changes with Rajasthan going forward with the likes of Nisham or Obed McCoy, we don't know. Chris, best bowling attack?
Yeah, I'm just going to mirror what GS said. Rajasthan, I think they cover all bases, left arm pace, right arm pace, and they've got spinners that spin the ball both ways, two of them. Yes, they're coming off a loss, but I think a loss, you don't lose, you learn. And they're a squad that looks like they're learning, and they're actually due for some success. So I actually hope they do really well this year.
Quite a few teams that are due for some success, Chris. Rajasthan have at least won one a long time back. But no, I know what you mean. Another team we could throw in is Kolkata in that, Ravi. I mentioned Gujarat and Rajasthan, but the two mystery spinners, Umesh has started brilliantly. Pat Cummins is going to come in. Saudi's done a job for them. Are they anywhere close?
That's a good side. That's a good side that should have a better season than some of the earlier years. I think that's a team you can say will threaten for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, let's just remind all of you that there are a lot of bowling attacks that will look very different almost now, right? With Anrik Nokke set to join the Delhi Capitals, Josh Hazelwood available for selection for Bangalore, a team of Siraj, Harshal, Hazelwood, Hasaranga, that might look very different to what we've seen so far. So keep an eye out on how these teams change 10 or 12 games into the IPL. Last question, as I said to all of you, the biggest surprise of the first week, something that you did not expect that has happened. Ravi, let's start with you. Would it be Chennai or would it be a team or a
Chennai
player?
and Mumbai, for the way they've started. I mean, these are heavyweights of the IPL. One's won it 4 times, the other's 5, so 9 titles between them. They're still to win a game, still to open their account. Biggest surprise.
You throw in Hyderabad to that, another former champion. That's 10 IPL titles between 3 teams who still haven't figured out how to win this season. Chris Lynn, what's been the biggest surprise for you?
Yeah, well, it's basically the latter for me. But as you said, the influx of players coming in from South Africa and Australia, that's all going to get thrown out the window. But Yeah, Mumbai and CSK down the bottom. But traditionally, Mumbai are quite slow starters, so they are one that you never, go easy on. It is critical because we're so early in the tournament, but now with the full contingent of players, I think that's just going to get thrown out the window. May as well start again.
Very interesting, because the Mumbai that used to come back was a Mumbai that looked very different to this. So let's see if they can still bank on that history. GS, final word?
Yeah, I think apart from whatever the experts have said, I think the likes of Umesh coming in and delivering upfront, I didn't like a lot of us did expect Umesh to start. He was picked up pretty late in the auction. I think some availability issues ensured that he started, and now he's become undroppable. There are a lot of these kind of names, Sam Billings for that matter. He was also picked up in the towards the end. Andre Russell has come good. So yeah, I know I'm giving KKR examples, but just that I found that a bit. I didn't expect that to kind of happen. And similarly, RCB also have done very well with their reserve players. So I thought a few teams will struggle with the unavailability of certain players. Delhi managed to win without their key players. So that has been something which I found it very, very surprising. Even without their key players, they've somehow managed to win. And again, RCB, no contribution from Kohli and Maxwell yet, and they've got 2 wins. All this is excellent for the league, and it shows the kind of depth that all teams have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw in Gujarat in there. Didn't think this team would start with 2 wins, especially when Lucknow looked the better team. And you've got Delhi Capitals as the second scalp. So that's a very good start to Hardik Pandya's team, where we wondered where he'd bat, what sort of role he'd play. He's bowling, so that's a pleasant surprise. So yeah, we wrap it there. A lot could change. I wonder if we look at this chat 2 weeks into the IPL and we think we've got any of this right. Can we pick one team, though? One team that we think this team's got to make the playoffs now. Now that we've seen everybody, the teams are likely to change. But one team. Ravi Shastri?
RCB.
RCB. Chris Lynn?
Rajasthan.
Okay. Gaurav Sundararaman?
KKR.
Awesome. I can now pick a fourth, right, and round off our top four, but I won't do that. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much to Chris Lynn, Ravi Shastri, and Gaurav Sundararaman. Let's leave it there, and we'll pick up this chat on trends in another couple of weeks to see how teams go once the entire complement of their contingent is put together.